Welcome to Making Room, a podcast inspiring people to accelerate change by being a catalyst, honoring creativity, and acting with courage. We are making room for the greatest potential of our community.
Welcome, you are welcome here. Welcome to this open door, dear. Our hands are reaching out for you. The floor is clear and we've made room for
All right, welcome back to Making Room. How's everybody doing?
Doing well.
Doing great.
Rocking and rolling? And every time I try to start something different, and they don't let me, so I got to start with my signature. All right, you know.
All right. We need T-shirts.
Exactly, we do.
Yeah.
It's good to have some security and safety.
Security.
That's right.
All right, it makes me feel good.
Yeah,
For those
that's
of
right.
you who, well, you don't because it's not recorded. Usually, I try to get one of them to start before we start, and it never works. So we just go with what we know.
That's right.
And I think one of the things we do know is that the individual we just had in here, Khaleel Loyd and Loyd Visuals, is just an extraordinary human being. And Brandon, I think you said it so well that he weaves through the three themes of this podcast, that it's probably just good to refresh ourselves on what they mean, right? The courage, you know, the ability to do hard things and challenging things, especially when it's challenging. You know, we've said that crisis reveals character in this pandemic, and creativity, and really to honor the way people see the world, and people express that in so many different ways. We've seen your drawing, we've seen your special designs that are probably on a Hallmark card
That's right.
somewhere,
That's right.
and but honor, you know, how people see it and express is really important. And then to be a catalyst, you know, what he did with his brothers to make room, to likely have that short-term sacrifice, but in essence probably to speed up, you know, his brother Malik and others who are so visually talented with the work. And I think that's the power. You know, to me, I'm now seeing that this idea of being a catalyst, there is a hump sort of to get over, I think, in, I'll say, the innate brain that looks out for the self and survival and all the anxiousness we have in our culture. But when you really take time to be quiet and still, that it's also natural to be a catalyst for someone. So I'd love to get you all's thoughts on what you're taking away and what you're feeling now.
Yeah. Just so there was a period where you were talking, you and Khalil were talking. I think you were talking. You were in the zone. I almost said I was like, we probably shouldn't be here. I just let you and
sit
Khalil,
back.
just sit back. But I think you kind of picked up on just the strength of your relationship.
Yeah.
That just struck me, and I just feel like that was incredibly powerful. And I do think Khalil is a unique, as you mentioned. I think just unique of. There are aspects, so I'll speak personally. There are aspects of creativity. Yes, I bring it a little bit into my day-to-day job, and I do, but like the creative aspect where I really get that release, that's separate from my job. I think I can be a catalyst in my job. I can have courage in my job. But it seems like his are all unified in one thing. Everything, the things he's doing embodies all three. It's not like, well, I got this bucket over here, I got that bucket. It's all one big bucket that he's doing. And so that's sort of inspirational, and that's kind of why I got a little bit emotional with seeing that commercial, because it was just powerful hearing his story and knowing where he's come from and thinking I'm mentoring him and he's really inspiring me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think a lot about for him about purpose and then process that we talk about a lot, right? The purpose of why he decided to give up on something that was a corporate job, but something that was probably a little bit more reliable than taking that courageous step was really about kind of creating something more more meaningful, more powerful for his family, for himself, to be able to take that next step in that journey, but do something with also purpose in the storytelling, right? It's not just about any gig, but it's really about getting to know people and forming those relationships and telling stories, using that creativity to share stories that hopefully then inspire others, and not just about making money. And that intentionality of how he does it through the process, right? It's about getting to know people. It's about forming those relationships. It's about understanding the why and then being able to deliver that in a visual form using that creativity. So I really was honed in on his why, and that took multiple forms, right? It wasn't just about creating a business and being an entrepreneur and building this potential for generational wealth, but the process of how he's doing it is about so much more in our community.
And I love what the question you asked is such a great question. So if you haven't listened to it, go back, check it out. There's a phenomenal question, I think mid to late in it, that you asked him, Shivani. And it was about, some of the lasting relationships that you form.
Yeah.
And, it really struck me when you asked that sometimes, personally, I've seen a lot of businesses and entrepreneurs look at a business relationship as, what can I get from you?
Mm-hmm.
And how can I get to you paying the check versus, how do we co-create something beautiful together? And to see his approach and to see, whatever spiritual, belief system you have, God, universe, all different things, to see that really work for him, where, relationships he and I have had, he's just gone and he's done the same amazing work with other nonprofits and big companies and Airbnb, but I think you can feel that. And that's, if anything, if people, we don't give out a whole lot of advice on here, but if I would give any, it's that don't try to take advantage of somebody because they have a role or
Right.
That's a human being in front of you. And I think too often people do that, and so it can leave the person who might be wanting to share an opportunity feeling like icky. Like, what just happened? Like, I kind of like this person, but I feel like they're in it for something. And I get we got to do that in the market forces we have. But I think what Khaleel has done, he's a shining example of it's more than the transaction. It's, what are you serving? What's the mission? And I'm here for the relationship. And even if how many conversations he and I had, it wasn't about an opportunity I had. It's just, you become friends with people. And I just would like to see more of that. And I think it will take also on people with opportunities, got to take more chances. It doesn't always have to be this big agency who's established and has 8 different offices. I certainly appreciate companies like that, but sometimes we have to take chances on creative talent that may be emerging. Mm-hmm. And so it is absolutely a two-way street, but I think what he is a shining example of is that relationship first really can lead to success.
Mm-hmm. I think it's also a testament to character, right? Like being and coming into every situation with that authenticity of self. And that takes a lot of personal growth and really being able to know who you are and what you stand for and what you're coming into with. And so I think as we think about our own interactions with the world and who we interact with in terms of whether it's elevating our careers or lifting other people up, reminding ourselves that we always have this personal journey and growth that we have to do in order to be that authentic self and proceed with character.
Yeah, I agree with that. And he mentioned in part of that interview was that he is the one that's looked to as part of his family, right? And so I think if you're looking at him as a business person, seeing how he treats his brothers, first of all, that's kind of integrity because that says a lot.
Yep.
And then being the one that his family looks to, which I know from some experience that is not an easy burden, and it's very easy to become a little bit jaded and just say, hey, you know what, you guys got to figure it out on your own. But being able to do that, I think that just goes back to his character, integrity, and kind of who he is. And so, I guess we are giving out advice today. We usually don't give out advice, but I'll give advice that you never know. And when I think we've heard that in numerous guests, like as you go through your day-to-day life, how people are looking at you and observing what you do. And I've just, as he was saying, I thought about some younger cousins that I have that I never knew, like they were looking at me for certain things. And like I have a cousin who's amazing at art. And I didn't know that she looked at some of my art projects when I was in high school and was like, I want to do art. And I had no idea until she told me later. I was like, how'd you get into art? And she was like, well, I remember you doing art. And so just that and how they take it further. So you never know like what impact people are looking up to you and how you can be an inspiration to them just by going through your life, acting with character, as Shivani mentioned, and just integrity.
Yeah, it is, because I love that, both your comments on character, because, when it is hard to stick with values or, it's I think there's an E.E. Cummings quote that says one of the hardest things in the world to do is to be yourself when everyone's trying to get you to be something different or to fit into this mold. And family members see that, you know. And I remember I had a neighbor who gave me like some really good, tough feedback one time. And you forget even how a neighbor might be watching. And it was a time in my life where I was trying to be more present and, you know, build relationships with people around. And my neighbor was telling me that their granddaughter was coming in. And I was, you know, people that know me, I love kids. And so a couple weeks went by and I was like, what? She didn't bring her by. And I remember asking her, like, hey, does your granddaughter ever come in? And she goes, yeah, I was going to, but you always look like you're in a rush. And so I didn't want to bring her by. And I didn't want it to feel like heavier weight. And so it was just a reminder to me that, geez, even how I'm walking to my car and am I running or sprinting or am I on my phone? And people can pick that up. And so sometimes we need people too. I think sometimes honoring character is having people that know your character and your potential and are willing to say, hey, kind of like you did for me in the career we joke about it was quitting. It was really just you were calling me into a much greater purpose of my character, and you knew my character, and same with you and Pottis throughout this journey. And I think it's important to do that as we navigate businesses and life, is that you have people that know that, but that sometimes are willing to tell you that.
Right.
So
it's great. I didn't have a good response to that.
No,
You just said it again. I think this, like I said, the strength of the relationship is just, I really see it in kind of your words and how you talk about Khaleel and just where he's come from. So it's really great to see. And I would just say I appreciate you being a catalyst for that, for connecting us with him and just all the other people that you are working with that kind of go on the radar that I wouldn't even meet as someone who's native to Charlotte and feel like I'm pretty connected with the different communities. I probably wouldn't even have met these incredible people without you. So keep doing what you're doing too. Like I told him.
Absolutely. Well, and I think Khaleel is a shining, I know I've said that a few times now, maybe because it's the first day of Diwali again. But of the part of it too was, his talent, who he is, and there's things he can do and say in communities, like he said, especially being how he grew up as a black man in Greensboro, that inside schools that I don't have a certain lived experience. So we're actually able to be more effective because we bring more experience, not experience based on capability and business and creativity, but in humanity. And so that widening has made it more effective. But I also think, for me, I will absolutely, and I feel like the two of you are the exact same way, if you get a sense that somebody, it's not just about them, and it's about they're trying to build and create something, and they're constantly looking right and left to see who could be a part of this and share and spread those across communities and industries, I'll run through brick wall for people like that. And I think it's beautiful when you encounter that, because I think we all do that, and you enjoy when it's it sort of happens together, or that, like you said, we all are each other, and we're gonna need that support from somebody too. So I agree. And that one thing I'll say, I was very impressed with his story. I saw the commercial. Go back to this commercial. I didn't realize Honeywell said, well, why don't you be in the commercial? I thought maybe they decided to put themselves in it, or just, thought it would be a cool clip. And I think that's we in Charlotte have such a great community of corporations who are willing or wanting to do the right thing. And I think sometimes we take it for granted that these corporations actually want to get. Honeywell came in and immediately jumped into this. And I know there are people who say there's some corporate interests there, of course, but a lot of corporations don't even bother, right? So I think we have this great community that sometimes I'm just impressed by, and the Gan Brown Foundation and how they supported him. So I just say I'm really impressed by how they supported him and how he's able to bridge the divides on these different communities, and hopefully just more comes out of it. So
absolutely, it reminds me of our song, right? Like the "We See You." Like,
yeah,
we literally see you, and we want others to see you shine as well. And so be in the commercial. Like, we see that you applied for this thing, and while it doesn't fit right now, like, we see this other opportunity and other potential to be able to lift this other group up.
Yeah. I think about that when you've done that, both of you, but recently you talked about a resident where you knew they were interested in this particular project, and your brain went off. And I think that's the challenge we leave as we close out today, is to keep thinking about who you could be talking about in rooms where opportunities might be shared, or that how much our words matter, how we speak about people matters. And, you know, people like you said, and things I said about Khaleel, and how you knew, you know, the caliber of person he is. But I think just taking those moments to really think, okay, I'm here, this opportunity. I mean, you did it for me with the PBS one, and like, I think actually more good could happen if this person's here, even though this might, quote, benefit me in the short term. More change can happen if you know, I'm a catalyst for this person. So it's been an awesome conversation today.
We invite you to continue making room with us. You'll find this episode and all of our exciting and meaningful conversations on Apple, Spotify, or really anywhere you choose to listen to podcasts.
Join the Making Room movement and get more info at makingroomwithus.com, or follow us on Instagram at Making Room With Us.
Thank you for showing up for us and each other. Until next time.
You are wonderful and full of truth, just as you are. You are wonderful, so full of truth, just as you are. Oh. You are wonderful, so full of truth, just as you are, just as you are. You're welcome here, just as you are.